Hello and welcome to the Legendary Backlog. We're glad you're here. In our show, both hosts are longtime friends named Brian, and we cover a game over 5 years old each and every week. This episode 16. We'll be covering Super Mario Brothers. I am Brian, and you can find me at TryWinBrian on X. You can follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at the Legendary Backlog, and on X you can find us at Legend Backlog. If you listen to the show and you like it, please follow us on Patreon at the Legendary Backlog. It's free. It'll give you access to all our sites, and we're trying to build a community of people who love games. Also, and additionally, you can listen to the podcast now on Patreon.
Oh, great.
Yeah, my co-host is Brian. Would you like to introduce yourself, Brian?
Yes, Brian, thank you. Yes, my name is Brian, and you can reach me online at Nostalgic Pixel on X, Blue Sky, Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Nostalgic Pixel, and a Twitch channel, Nostalgic Pixel TV, and lastly, a website, nostalgicpixel.com, where you'll find my longer writings about video games and movies. So, Brian, how's your week been going?
My week's been going pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good today. You know how you think about like simple things that we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today after I did the yard, I took a shower, and oh my god, that felt so good. It just refreshed me so much. It's amazing what showers do. They're like the best thing ever. I was sitting there and I was thinking, how great is soap? There's so many things that humans couldn't do if there was no soap. Like surgery, things like that. We would all be running around smelling. It'd be terrible. So I was thinking about that today. Kind of had me going off in the rabbit hole. And then, as far as the week goes, I did spend a lot of time with my youngest daughter because my oldest daughter went to church camp. So my youngest daughter stayed behind. So one day I was off because of a doctor appointment. And after the doctor appointment, I kind of made it like a whole day with her. And we shot a YouTube. I took her to Target and Walmart, and she eventually settled on this Lego set. And then we made a YouTube video about it and everything, and she really liked it for her channel. Her channel's doing pretty good. It's called Ashlyn's World if anybody's interested. But yeah, so she's doing really good, and I really enjoyed it. My oldest daughter got home yesterday, and I was super excited to see her. Now, what's interesting, Brian, is that this is something that I think other people experience even if they're not parents in other ways. But as a parent, I experienced something that I really haven't experienced before, and that was my daughter being outside the house on her own. And man, that gave me super anxiety this week.
What do you mean outside of just like on sleepaway camp, being gone for the week?
Yes, like not under my roof, right? Or not at a house I can drive to in 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah, not in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so that right there gave me some pretty big anxiety. I was a little kind of shocked at how much anxiety it gave me. But I got through it. Everything's cool. She had a great time, and we've had a good time as a family this week. We played a lot of Mario Kart and Mario 3D World nights. Between 3 and 4 player, depending on who's all here. We've been playing a lot of Mario Kart. Even Mary's getting pretty good at it now. Now we're usually 1, 2, 3, 4 when we finish, which is good because for a while there we had some stragglers. And then we've been playing Mario 3D World, and it comes with Bowser's of Fury.
That's the part that did not release on the Wii U, but the rest of it had. So that's the new part for the Switch, and yeah, I heard it's really good.
Mario 3D World is so crazy when you got 4 players. It is like, because if you move ahead, everybody just stops, turns into like this little dot, and like follows you there. And like you're trying to get.
Yeah, they get into like a bubble and catch up. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're sitting there like someone's like, wait a minute, there's a star here, don't move. And then the person doesn't pay attention or doesn't listen. So they just keep on moving. And it's like, yeah, it's like chaos, but it's fun chaos like only Nintendo can do. How's your week been, Brian?
Yeah, my week's been pretty good. I set up I have my old backpacking tent. I set up in the backyard. I didn't really go camping in it because it's too hot. But I was just checking it out. I hadn't hadn't taken it out of the bag and for like over a decade it seemed like. So I kind of set that up in the backyard. That was kind of fun. And then I watched some old movies. I watched an old movie called "It's a Mad, 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 Mad World" from 1963. I hadn't seen it in forever. I think I saw it like on cable one time in like the early 2000s with my dad or whatever. It's just it's an it's an old movie about like these people are driving around. I think in California, someone gets into a wreck, and then they go check him out, and he's like talking about some buried money somewhere, and then he passes away, and then so all the drivers are like, "Well, let's go get the money." Have you ever seen the movie Rat Race?
It sounds familiar. Yeah, I think I have.
Okay, so the it's kind of like a modern or an older version of the Rat Race, which Rat Race is kind of like a modern version of this. So they're all kind of like in their cars driving around, like trying to get to this location. It's like 200 miles away or whatever. And anyway, what I found was interesting when I was watching it is some of the video that they were using, like some of it didn't quite add up. Like the quality of the picture kind of dropped for a scene, or even which really threw me off. At one point, I thought my player was broken. There's some scenes in that movie where the pictures aren't moving, but you can still hear the audio. And that's because over the years, this version, like as much as they've tried to restore it, there's definitely footage missing. There was a huge effort to try to restore the movie to the version it is now, and like the full unedited version, because apparently there's a lot of different shorter versions, and they're trying to get the full version. It's called like the Roadshow version of it, anyway. But that's the default version today. If you were to go watch it, anyway, like I said, it kind of threw me off at first, and then I thought something wrong with my player or whatever. It turns out, nope, that's just it. There's like just a couple scenes, not much, that are like that. And so, but it was really cool to see, and it's also surprising to see that it's a movie from the '60s like that, and it's already got lost footage and stuff like that. That lost to time. But then on that after that, I watched. I don't know. Did I mention last week? I watched like been watching a lot of John Goodman movies. A little bit. All right, say a lot. I watched Matinee, and I watched Arachnophobia, and then I also watched The Babe. Do you ever see that one where he played Babe Ruth?
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
movie.
me too.
When I was a kid, I loved that movie to death. We rented it like probably 5 times.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and even after I watched it, I also pulled up like a documentary on Babe Ruth, just kind of curious to see, how close did they get it to it. But yeah, I love that movie as a kid. It was just so that was fun. I went back and watched some of those old movies, and I played some games. But one thing, it was a really cool game that I came across is this project where I played Ocarina of Time on my Mac in like 4K and 60 frames per second, and all kinds of life improvement additions to it and stuff. It's pretty neat. I was thrilled to see it working so smoothly, but I plan to play more of it. The project, let's see, what is it called? I have it right here. Uh, it was a project to where they made this, and that they made it to where it's not going to get removed by Nintendo because it doesn't like you download this program and then it asks for the ROM, and then you supply it the ROM, and then it patches it all. So the good news is that it doesn't seem like it's going to get removed anytime soon because of that. But it was cool playing Ocarina of Time. Now I know like the 3DS version is probably like the most advanced one, and I can run the 3DS on my computer too. But it was just cool to play like the N64 version in widescreen in 4K and 60 frames per second. Because I found out too, like that game originally played in like 20 frames per second, which at the time that was acceptable. But it's so much nicer to be able to turn up the frame rate.
You know what's interesting about that is number one, I did not know that, and number two, it never bothered me when I was a kid.
Well, it's not like you had a choice.
I know, but I never noticed that it was 20 frames per second. Other games were 30 or so forth. It's just like I never noticed that at all.
Yeah, the project that did this, it's called Ship of Harkonian.
Ship of Harkonia.
Uh, so there's that.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out.
and I got a new Stream Deck. I was been playing around with that, trying to get different things set up. I had fun playing with the home automation features. I could turn all the lights on and off by pressing a button here at my desk. So that was kind of fun. And there's some more stuff I want to do with that. And then also I got like a MIDI keyboard that came with a bunch of software, and it was a lot of fun. At first, I thought it was asking me to choose between one of three different software packages, and so I did it like an hour and a half of research of which audio package is going to be best for me. Is it going to be the classical? Is it going to be the hype package? Is it going to be the this other package? And they both look good. But like after doing an hour and a half of like research trying to figure out which one it was, and it really felt like a Sophie's choice because they told you each of these packages is like $99. So it seemed like it was like I'm gonna get one of these for free, and then if I make a decision later that I want that one, it's gonna be $99. So after doing all the research and everything, I found out nope, you get all three. It's not a choice. So I was like, oh well, okay, great, I'll get all three. But I had an idea which one I wanted to get, and good news, I got them all.
That's good to hear.
But that man, that's just like another program that's so much to learn, and I'm gonna figure some of it out. But like, whew, like it's a keyboard, but a keyboard with like a lot of software, and it's not straightforward. But it's pretty fun. I had a good time banging out some of the keys, but then I started working on the Stream Deck. So, but I'm gonna keep messing with it. But that's what's going on with me.
Speaking about the Stream Deck, like I'm pretty excited because I got email notification, or I got an Alexa notification the other day, and then I got an email notification after that that Amazon Alexa Plus is coming out, which is basically going to be like their version of like Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever. And I have Alexas all over the house, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that coming out.
Didn't we get that plugin that communicated to Chat GPT to let you use Chat GPT through Alexa?
I use it every now and then. Maybe it's improved, but I use it every now and then. But you couldn't really like when I used it. It was back when Chat GPT first came out. It was before version 4.0, and you like really couldn't talk with it like you can Gemini, as far as just have a conversation or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you could ask it like information and things like that. It was really neat. I still have it set up. Um, you have to give a special command to Alexa, and then she'll do it. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking really forward to Alexa Plus though, because we have like 6 Alexas in our house, so that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Let's go ahead and get into the game of the week. What do you think?
All right. Sure, sounds good. So the game of the week this week is Super Mario Brothers. It released in 1985 in Japan, and for the Nintendo's Famicom Family Computer System. And then a year later, released in America on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So yeah, it was a really great game. And then also there was an arcade version of well, it was this is the successor to the original arcade Mario Brothers from 1983, which while it retains the same characters Mario and Luigi, that's about all it has in common with it. But yeah, today we're looking at Super Mario Brothers, and that was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka. They designed it, and a culmination of their team's experience. They're working on Devil World and other side scrollers like Excite Bike and Kung Fu. What else we got?
Yeah, they got they were they, that was the start of like a really good group of game developers, man, back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shinji Miyamoto is like pretty much the I don't know, like if there was a king of development for games, he would be it. You know,
Yeah, Shigeru Miyamoto, definitely.
I mean, he's probably the best game designer. He's my favorite game designer as far as making a game fun. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like every game he makes is not. You know, they're really quirky a lot of times. They maybe don't have the best story. They don't have the best cutscenes or anything like that, but they are just excellent fun games that always have a loop. So I think it's just real important to point him out there.
Yeah, you want to hear something interesting about Shigeru Miyamoto?
Yeah, sure.
So, as we pointed out, Shigeru Miyamoto is one of the creators of Super Mario Brothers, and he's also, as we've said, one of the creators of many of the franchises and games from Nintendo. So, one of the things was going on, like when he talked about coming up with the idea for Legend of Zelda, he got it from thinking about his childhood when he would go out into the woods and explore the woods in his neighborhood and stuff like that. And so that's kind of how he got into Zelda. And then another franchise of series of games he made is Pikmin. And he said in an interview he came up with Pikmin because his wife was working in the garden and he was working in the garden in his house with his wife. And by being in the backyard and working in the garden, he got this idea for Pikmin. And so what happened was is he keeps telling these interviews kind of how he came up with these ideas. Nintendo told Shigeru Miyamoto, "Stop talking about your hobbies and your life outside of work. You're giving people ideas for games."
That's pretty funny.
So he's like, "Okay." So now when he does interviews, he doesn't really talk about his personal life much, or like how he came up with the game ideas, or just like his hobbies, because Nintendo told him.
I don't think that really gives away like
No, it doesn't, but it's just kind of funny.
yeah, it is kind of funny though. But what's really interesting about that is that shows you how he thinks about life, right?
Hmm.
Is that he views task in life as in like you can turn this into a gameplay mechanic. I think that's what makes him so special. Is like he thinks like a game designer, you know.
Hmm.
I think that's really cool. So let's go ahead and talk about Super Mario Brothers a little bit more. What was your first experience?
It's interesting for me. I had already played the Nintendo before Super Mario Brothers. First Nintendo I played was over at my friend's house, James. He had the Nintendo. He also had a bunch of games. I remember playing that, and then later I got mine. But when I got mine, again, it didn't have like Super Mario Brothers packed in. It came with Duck Hunt and Gyromite, and those are okay games. But the game I got along with it, separate, was like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and it wasn't until like 6 months later that I got Super Mario Brothers. But man, like I had been one of the people that had played like Mario Brothers and was familiar with that, and then seeing Super Mario Brothers being such a drastic change and a welcome change, it was something else. Like I couldn't believe it. Like it was so smooth in the scrolling, going on the screen, and it was so much fun. And there seems to be always there's all these little like hints and like secrets in the game with warps early on that you can see. But it was a lot of fun. It was one of those games too where it is two player, but it's like take turns two player. So this worked out really well when I was visiting my friend and he had it. We could easily play this game together by taking turns and stuff. It's it's an amazing to see how many iterations of different Super Mario Brothers games this franchise is still going super strong.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna stop, man. I think like 100 years from now, you got Mario Brother games. They might be in 3D holograms in your living room, but I'm pretty sure, or you might be doing it in virtual reality, but I'm pretty sure that Mario Brothers is gonna stick around. It's like one of those forever titles.
Hmm.
My first experience with Super Mario Brothers was is actually when my grandfather bought us a Nintendo. Well, I take that back. He did buy us a Nintendo, but that was Christmas later. The first time I played it was at his house. He bought a Nintendo, but he bought the Nintendo that came with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, right?
Yeah, the action pack that came out later because they got rid of the pack in with Rob.
Yeah. Like we messed around with Duck Hunt. It was cool and everything, but man, we played the heck out of Super Mario Brothers. I just like the moment I played it, I was just so enamored with it. It was so fun. The controls were so tight. I think that's one of the things that kind of gets overlooked on the original Super Mario Brothers is that the controls are so perfect, you know. And when you jump, you really jump, and it's not floaty. It's very precise, and just the side scrolling and everything.
Well, it is floaty, but you get a chance to like turn. Like in Castlevania, when you jump, you're committing to that jump. But with Super Mario Brothers, if you have enough speed when you're jumping, you can have momentum and you can shift your momentum a little bit in those jumps, which is nice. That gives you some control. But you're right, it doesn't feel floaty
Right.
because in order for it to like do that, you have to be running and jumping.
Yeah, and when we first played it, I remember the iconic first level. That they've like repeated and
Hmm.
everything, almost.
Yeah, and the level's just designed to teach you how to play the game, and it does an amazing job. It's like for anybody even trying to make video games, that's a perfect example of how you teach someone without having necessarily tutorial.
Yeah, I remember me and my sister, we had a little bit of trouble getting past the first level for like the first 30 minutes or so because we really weren't gamers at the time. That was really my first experience of games, to be honest. I was so young. This is before I really went to arcades and everything like that. So
Yeah.
the reason why we're doing this podcast right now is because of this game right here. It totally changed my life. I mean,
Oh, sure.
the first time I played it, I was hooked. And I had tons of games for the NES by the time that I
Hmm.
retired, the time that I got a Super Nintendo and moved on. But the NES, I just always went back to this game. I played it like crazy. I mean, the only game that actually got me off of this game was really Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 2 did it for a little bit, but Super Mario Bros. 3 is what really got me off of it.
Brian, what's interesting about like your first experience and my first experience? Like you said, when you were playing it with your sister and stuff, and it took you guys like 30 minutes to figure out the first level. Like my experience was going over to my friend's house who already had it, And so when I was playing it with him, he'd already been playing it, plenty. So he knew exactly how to play it when I first saw it. So we kind of jumped in running like that, and I was just kind of playing catch up. And it's one of those games that's taking turns. So like when he's his turn, he goes through half the game, and it's my turn. I die in level one.
Yeah.
But it was different because like in my experience, it's like he'd already spent hours and hours playing this game before I even saw it the first time.
And to be honest with you, I did pick up some tips from some friends after I played it at school and things like that.
Oh, sure. That was the big deal back in the day. Like, ooh, do you know where this warp pipe is? Or, hey, do you know how to do this? And we were talking earlier this week is like, hey, do you know how to do like the 100 lives trick? And yeah, for your memory, you knew everything about that.
I tried to do that this week. I tried to go back and get like the bunch of lives thing on level 3-1, and I just couldn't do it. I tried over and over and over again, and like I just don't have it anymore.
I was never good at that.
I remember trying a lot when I was younger. This is probably after we had the game, like a year before when we figured this out. But I remember trying over and over and over again, and my parents were watching me. They're like, "Don't you want to just play the game, honey?" And I was like, "No, I want to figure this out." And when I got it figured out, I got to the point where I could do it pretty readily. Maybe it'd take me one or two lives, to try it out, to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I could not get it to work this week. That was kind of interesting. Oh, what is your most memorable moment with Super Mario Bros?
Where the warp pipes are in this game is like burned into my brain. So every time I pick up the game, I go straight through the warp pipes and try to get there, get to the end as far as I can before I run out of lives. Because, like I said, I'd never, even though I had friends that were good with the 100 lives trick, I never spent as much time to figure it out, and I just use the warps all the time. So even going back this week, my default is like I just race through it to get to it, and I'm as cool as all the levels are. Like if I had infinite lives and time, I would just like go through them all. But like since my lives are pretty non-infinite, I'm trying to get to. I want to beat the game if I can, while I still have lives. So I just kind of race through to the warp pipes.
Yeah, that kind of brings up an interesting point. The difficulty, right? The difficulty for this game, considering it was kind of like made for the family, is pretty outrageous. I mean, you start off with 3 lives, and if you're small, you get hit by anything, you die. So it was not a very forgiving game, right? It forced you to basically get good, which is what everybody did. But it was so fun, you didn't mind.
Yeah, everyone got good.
Everybody could do Mario back in the day. It was almost like, remember our Street Fighter episode when we said you were expected to do a Street Fighter? It was like if you had an NES, you were expected to know how to play Super Mario Brothers, or if you knew somebody had one, right?
Yeah, like we said, it was the pack-in game. Not very long after the release of the NES itself, it became the pack-in game. It was their Sonic the Hedgehog pack-in, at the time, before Sonic.
Yeah. How do you think Super Mario Brothers holds up today in 2025?
Well, let's see, the last time we got a Super Mario Brothers that was a side scroller like this was Super Mario Wonder, and I thought that was pretty good on the Switch. It's like this for me. It was like, so there's Super Mario Brothers, there's Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and all those came on the NES, and they were great. And then we got Super Mario Brothers 4, Super Mario World, and then we didn't really get another Super Mario Brothers until the DS when they released New Super Mario Brothers, and then we got assortment of New Super Mario Brothers. They kind of brought it back. Mario moved on to 3D worlds and stuff, so we have all different kinds of Mario Brothers. But you know what I was thinking about this week a lot? Super Mario Maker 2. And I kind of wanted to dig into that. I didn't boot it up this week, but I was definitely thinking about it as I was playing the original because you can design your own levels, and that was so much fun. But for that, the problem for me is people kept making levels that were just so challenging, so difficult to play that I lost interest. How about yourself?
That question was more pointed at how do you think the Super Mario Brothers that was released in 1985 holds up, right?
It holds up. Gameplay is still there. The graphics may have changed, but the gameplay is still there.
Yeah, for me, I went back to it this week, and I haven't played it a long time. It's amazing. I probably have like over 2,000 hours in this game over the course of my life because I've not only had it on the NES, but like several other systems, right, that it was released on. The thing that got me is how instantly I was hooked into going, right? It was a little frustrating you couldn't go backwards, because like every Mario game after that, you go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
It's something so simple but so good. It's got that perfect gameplay loop that I think just makes you want to play. It's really brutal too. My most memorable moment, like what we were talking about just a minute ago, was one time I made it all. I did use warps. Okay, caveat here. I did use warps, but I made it all the way to the last level where you can fight Bowser, the real Bowser. I hadn't lost one life, right? And I died on that really long jump. And if people can, if you ever made it there, you'll remember this jump because it's like you have to be speed running and jump as far as you can and land on this little bitty like this one block and then jump that same jump again. You know,
Hmm.
that was a little frustrating, but I still remember that to this day. But yeah, the game holds up great. I think it's like an example of what a video game should be, how simple a video game can be, and have so much depth.
It's been like the example, and not only is it the example, but like there's a couple things that this was showing off as the scrolling. It really kicked off the whole platformer genre and like busted it loose because before like you get through a screen and then it would reload and refresh the next screen, like if you're playing Pitfall or whatever. But this would just had smooth scrolling, which was just a new thing in video games. It really did it well.
Doing some research for the game, I found out that the blue background was actually pretty revolutionary because most games at that time used black background. And the reason why is because of saved memory, because they didn't have much memory back then.
Hmm.
Another thing I found out is the bushes. I'll never look at the game the same again. But the bushes that he goes past on the ground are the same as the clouds. Yeah, I didn't know that until this week. Every time I look at the game now, I see it different. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but it's just interesting how much they had to work on saving with the 8-bit aesthetic they used.
The memory was such a scarce resource in making those games. They worked really well within the limitations.
As far as Super Mario Brothers, we have to talk about the legacy of the game, right? Like basically, it saved the industry, is what a lot of experts believe, because the video game industry went through that crash, and basically the NES and the Super Mario Brothers combined is really what helped save the gaming industry.
In America, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think the pack-in of adding Super Mario Brothers with the NES made it synonymous with Nintendo. It's like I know Nintendo published it,
Hmm.
but what it made was like, okay, if you have a Nintendo, you should get Mario. That was like the thing, right? And for a long time, we didn't get a system without a Mario release.
Hmm.
What I know the Switch had Zelda, then later on had Mario Odyssey.
And the Wii had Zelda.
Yeah, the Wii had Zelda.
The Wii U had Super Mario Brothers Wii U.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Before that, it seemed like the system always launched with the Mario Brothers game, which is really interesting. It's I would say that probably sales wise, Zelda's probably overtaken Mario for Nintendo, but
Well, let's see. The GameCube didn't. It had a Luigi game, and people were like, "What? Let me know when the Mario game shows up," and it did. Like we said, the Wii didn't either, and then the Wii U, I believe it did, with the new Super Mario Brothers Wii U, and the Switch didn't either. The DS didn't either.
well, I was referring to like the NES, the Super Nintendo, the N64.
Well, three systems. Yeah, the NES, the Super Nintendo, and the N64, and then that's when it kind of stopped.
Yeah, but there was a period of quite a while where Nintendo was synonymous with Mario.
Yeah, and they even had for the Game Boy. They almost packed in like Super Mario Land as the pack-in. Instead, they went with Tetris, and that was a good roll. But it was a launch game. It was definitely right there for it. For me this week, I played this game on like every little possible device that I had that could play it. So I played it on like the Game and Watch that came out a couple years ago, and that was okay. It was fun, but the thing is, this is neat because this only plays pretty much Mario. So I just picked it up and played it. I played it on my analog pocket. I played it on like the Switch. I played it on my Miu Mini, and I played it on my actual NES, or actually it's a Famicom, but it's NES. I played that. Whew, boy, I had a little bit of scare yesterday when I tried to do that because he was having trouble reading cartridges, and there's not a lot of lights on the system. So when the screen's dark, everything's turned on, you're like, oh, is it not working? Anyway, I had it. Anyway, I spent probably about 2 hours just like cleaning everything I could, all the contacts, all the cartridges. Even though I knew the cartridge was pretty clean, I cleaned everything, and I got it to work. But man, I'll tell you what, that's the one problem with playing games on original hardware these days. Well, it was even 10 years ago, it was a challenge, but now it's been 10 more years. And yeah, this old hardware sometimes has a little issue, but it was fun playing it on the actual NES and with my original NES controller that I had when I was a kid. Found out as I was playing it on all these different versions, the best I played it at was on the original hardware. Like I was more successful in doing things with the original controller because as we were talking about the Miu Mini, like you said, it's a small handheld, and one of the things, the buttons are small and they're really close together. And when I'm playing this game, like I'm always holding down the run button, like 99% of the time, holding down the run button and pressing jump when I need to. I don't know about you. When you play it, do you always hold down the run button?
I used to when I was younger, but going back to it, I played it a lot different. That's one thing I noticed about playing it this week and going back to it. I used to try, if there was enemies, I used to almost try and take out like every enemy.
Yeah.
And I used to run all the time and basically jump. And if I was like, oh, I got to pull back, you know how you can pull back and shorten your jump or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I really avoided enemies, and I was a lot more successful, to be honest with you. Like there's a lot of times where those hammer guys that throw hammers, the little
Mm-hmm.
turtles that throw hammers,
Yeah, the Hammer Brothers.
I would come by them and just speed right past them before they ever threw anything. That was kind of interesting. Coming back to the game, I think flower power is like way overpowered in this game, but it's hard to keep to at the same time. So it is balanced.
Oh yeah.
When you do have it, you can just continually shoot fireballs and run with it, and almost take out anything in front of you. That's pretty interesting.
That Cloud character who throws down those spiky turtles, that guy can sometimes drop things at the wrong time for you. I found, if you're running, he has a trouble keeping up with you, but if you're not running, he doesn't have trouble keeping up with you and keeps throwing things out in front of you. So for that, it's almost like a Sonic game for me these days when I'm playing it. Like I'm racing to get to the other side as quickly as possible, avoiding everything, jumping over enemies or whatever. I'm going fast. I feel like I gotta go fast. But like, it's easier to avoid things if you're going fast.
Yeah. I used to play like that. This week I didn't. I don't know why. I did for a little bit, but then I noticed I started dying, so I kind of slowed down a little bit, and I did a little better. So I kept that up. One of the things we have to talk about is the audio, for the game. How it basically made like some of the most iconic sounds even today, like that da na 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 na, and stuff like that.
Yeah, or just when you pause it and it goes doo 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 doo,
Yeah.
like everything.
Or the sound of a coin. I mean, that's so iconic.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you go to a convenience store and the machine, the cash register makes all the Mario Brothers sounds.
Yeah, it's the audio was just amazing for what they did with the 8-bit system. I mean, yeah, it's really captivating. And what I think is interesting about Mario is it's akin to Zelda, where it has iconic sounds.
Oh yeah, and this system, the whole NES had iconic music because like you're saying, the music in on the NES was really incredible, especially if you look at like the Atari 2600. The sound on that one is it's just so it's nothing like it. Like so the NES is just miles ahead and they have all the tunes and everything. It's just the music played an important role, and it was an important role kind of for the first time on a console.
Yeah, and another thing that I think is great is, well, I mean, there's like the power ups and the pipe stomping enemies and stuff like that, and the fireballs that make noise. That is really iconic. But one of the things that's really iconic about this game that I think later other games borrowed is that you know how it speeds up the sound whenever you're starting to get close to the time. It's like da na 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 na.
Yeah, when your time is short, it starts speeding up.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of gives you like that. Oh my god, I gotta hurry up feeling, and it's it's such a great game as far as like how it makes you feel when you're playing it. It actually gives you to get you to the point where you're playing with the game very well in sync with what you need to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I noticed only like in the later levels would I start hearing like the time, speed up, where it's telling me we're running out of time. And the important thing for me is like, hey, look, I'm like 2/3 through this level. I don't need to like speed up or act hastily, even though the music's going nuts. I still got plenty of time. I'll get there, and it's not going to be that short. We're not going to be that close. But it definitely kind of lights a fire under you, or kind of gets you nervous in some cases if you're worried about it. But usually you can get there. It seems like it'd be really hard to not get there on time with where you run out of time before you get to the end. But some of the later levels make it possible.
Yeah, as great as this game is, I do not like the water levels. Still to this day, I do not like the water levels. My favorite level is the mushroom level in level 4. I believe that's right. That's my favorite level. Yeah, World 4. When you got the big mushrooms that you're jumping from one to another.
Uh-huh.
I like that level. What's your favorite level?
I don't know if I have a particular favorite level, but I do like World 4 in general. But like I said, that's usually where the cloud guy shows up and you're kind of running through it. I like it because I feel like I'm chasing that guy and that I have to stay in front of him so he can't throw things in front of me. But yeah, that's a good one. I also noticed, did you notice this when you go into like the last level for the worlds where you have to go fight like Bowser? That the floor feels a little slippery.
I know what you're talking about, right? Because like when you land, it just slides a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Super Mario Brothers 2 when you're on the ice level and stuff and you're sliding around a little bit. And some of those jumps that you have to make are like one, block in size. So like you land the jump and then you got to like either stop or like you said keep the momentum forward and make the next jump immediately
Yeah.
or you're going to slide right off.
And you could be really great at this game and just die at the stupidest thing too. I think that's kind of like the charm of it. Like I had some runs where I was doing really good, and then all of a sudden, just something stupid would kill me, like a bouncing, like one of those bouncing ducks or whatever, with the turtle shell on them.
The Koopas?
Not Koopas. Just the bouncing, like they look like turtles to me that just jump up and they just like fly up and down.
Yeah, those are Koopas.
All those are Koopas? Cool. I did not know that. Yeah, like I would just like I died to one of those and I was just like, oh my god, how'd that happen?
The cloud guys dropping those turtles right on you, and then you have the Koopas that are with wings that are bouncing, flying around, and like you have like nowhere to go, and if you sit there, they're gonna land on you, and if you jump, you're gonna land on them. So it's like, in order to like escape that kind of situation, you have to move through it quickly, or like you said, this is one where you can't kind of backtrack on the level. Like once the screen has moved forward, there's no going further back than that screen that you're looking at. So some of the areas do create like little crowded zones that you have to be careful not to get stuck in.
For people that didn't play it back in the day, one of the things we have to talk about is there was no savings. You could continue, but most of the time you had to beat the game in like one sitting.
Mm-hmm.
You only start off with 3 lives, so unless you really know the game, you're probably not going to make it. You have to know where the extra lives are. You have to know, get enough. If you get 100 coins, you get an extra life. Mechanics like that.
And there's secrets all over the place. Like just if you jump up in the air, sometimes a block will appear out of nowhere, and like you said, it could have a one up or just a coin. But like there's all kinds, and when you're playing this game, you kind of feel like there's all kinds of little secrets in the world, and you kind of jump up and it causes you to like explore the level to look for it sometimes just for those secrets.
Yeah, and I think the secrets are like a real big part of the charm of this game. I'm really glad you brought those up because there was times where I just got bored with just like running through the game, so I would go in a level and just like try and clear every block just to see what's there.
Oh yeah.
Later on, they came out with like guides of like every secret of Mario, so I kind of put that aside. But back in the '80s, I was actually going.
Yeah, it's like word of mouth.
I was actually going through like each level, like trying to get every block I could, which is really interesting. And something I didn't know is, do you know why Mario has a hat in this game, or he still has a hat today?
We had a hat in. Didn't he have a hat in Donkey Kong?
Yeah, he had a hat in Donkey Kong, but why he started with the hat is because Miyamoto didn't want to design hair.
Oh, he's fine with a mustache, but he didn't want to do the hair.
Yeah, and the reason why he has a mustache is so he didn't have to draw a mouth.
Like you said, they're limited resources here. They're trying to draw a character in 8-bit with just a few pixels, and yeah, I think that's smart to put the hat there instead of hair, and because that's the other thing. Thinking about this is after this game came out, like everyone tried to copy it. Some were shameless copies, and some were just more platformers, and the genre grew immensely with everyone trying to come up. And then Mario became so synonymous with Nintendo that we started getting into the every console needed a mascot, you know. So there was Sonic and there was Bonk, and Nintendo had Mario, and then there was all kinds of third party, side scrollers that had like their own characters and stuff, like James Pond. Yeah.
Talking about the limited resources, with how they made Mario with the hat and everything because they didn't really want to make hair and
Mm-hmm.
waste the memory.
Yeah, the mustache for the face. Yep.
One of the things you have to give a bow to this game is how they reused elements so well. Like this the same pipe is throughout the entire game, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
just but the way they used them, it didn't feel like you were ever bored or tired of them. You're just like, and the idea that you can go down into a pipe, it kind of makes you as a player want to try to go down in every pipe to see what's there.
Yeah, and you can't go down in every pipe. You have to figure out which ones you can and which ones you can't. And so you're going to try them all.
And then it's a trade off too, because if you go down a pipe, you miss part of the level. So there's so much replayability in this game for what it is. One of the things we got to ask ourselves is, what would gaming look like today if this game would have failed, or it didn't come out?
But I don't know. It would be definitely different for sure. Uh, as you mentioned, Nintendo after this kind of released a Mario game with their consoles, right? With Super Nintendo being the biggest pack-in with Super Mario World, and then N64 launching with like Super Mario Brothers 64. If this didn't happen, neither would have those. And if those didn't happen, like what kind of launch would they? What kind of Super Nintendo? What would it look like, or what would Mario 60? What would Nintendo 64 look like? If would it exist? Did would the because like this console like really brought back the whole video game market in America that had died horribly earlier in the 80s due to just overcrowding and just shovelware. But this changed everyone's mind, and this was also one of those games. While it was offered as a play choice in the arcade, this was kind of a newer thing. This game was really designed to play at home, so you can explore it and replay it and all this. So yeah, without this game, Nintendo still would have been successful because if they made other games like Zelda, and at the time, like even when I got my Nintendo, I didn't get it with Super Mario Brothers because I didn't even know what Super Mario Brothers was at the time. But I got it with a Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and that game was amazing. So they still had really good games, but without a Mario, we either Nintendo might not be around, or they definitely look very different. You know, and then the video game market would also look very different.
Yeah, I wonder if the success of the home console wouldn't have been as strong as it was if Mario didn't wasn't ever released.
Yeah, we might all be PC gamers for real, like
Yeah, we might all be PC gamers, and arcades might have stuck around a lot longer.
yeah,
It might have been a world where people were just like, okay, people really don't like to play games at home or something.
it could have. Yeah, it could have been like that, where like, oh, you want to play video games, well, then you have to leave the house and go to the arcade to play video games because that's where all the best arcade games are. Or the best games are. And growing up, that's kind of how it was. But yeah, without a big home console market, it could have still been that way. And then all the, like I said, PC games that you get over from Europe and America, and we could just be, we'd be playing Oregon Trail still, which we still do today. But that would have, Doom could have been it.
One of the things you have to talk about with this game is just the legacy of it, and how it changed video games. This is what taught everybody what a platformer should be. The iconic collecting coins. How many games do you collect things in, right? Power ups, right? Power ups are a huge thing in games.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those landmark games. If you would have asked me this several years ago, I would have told you the Super Mario Brothers, the one we're talking about now, the 1985 release, is probably the most important game that's ever been released. And I would almost say today that that's probably true. I know the games do more and they have more mechanics and everything, and trust me, I've put more hours in other games than this one. But I do think this is probably like the most like is space and time when it was released, the impact it had, you know, the how it took off with children and adults at the same time. I think that this is just like a monumental game that has to be respected and talked about. If you've never played the original Super Mario Brothers, I highly recommend it. If you have a Switch and you have the online, you can play it through there for free, or not free, but if you have the online, it's available under the NES. But it's one of those games that everybody should play.
Yeah, and another thing I was thinking about too is like a few years back when Nintendo released like their NES Mini like classic console. I remember one Thanksgiving I went out and brought that with me and showed it to like my cousins' kids and stuff, and they honestly hadn't seen this game, and there were some different ages, but it was so much fun watching them figure out how to play Super Mario Brothers on the first level and just watching them and 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 as soon as like one person figured it out, they all like, ooh, that's it was like a group learning effort, but it was so much fun seeing them progress in this game. Even though they had played some of them, all of them had played video games. It wasn't like a new concept, but like this original Super Mario Brothers, just showing them, and then how they caught on to it, and it was just so much fun seeing them like discover the game for the first time like that, and it holds up, and the gameplay is still there, and it's definitely something to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. The gameplay still holds up to today, and the even learning this game is fun. That's one thing when I really don't move on from game to game to game because I like to play games for a long time. That's one of the reasons why I play like long games is because I really don't like learning new games. I really like it when I know the game. I've unlocked enough stuff to where the gameplay loop is really fun and I can enjoy it and just kind of master it. But this game is actually fun to learn. Even dying is fun in this game because you just kind of like, you hear the music and then it was cartridge space, so it's just like boom, you're right back in it.
Yeah, it's nice how and modern games have picked this up too on how quickly getting you back into the action in the game. This is something that was lost for a while, and it's been brought back in a lot of ways. Um, some of it was technical reasons, but yeah, if you die, oh well. Like if you're playing by yourself, you're right back in, and obviously if you're playing with someone else, it's their turn. But like, yeah, it's when you die or in the game, like you don't feel too bad because you throw yourself right back into it. But also, like you said, when you pick this game up, it's not there's not a save system, and it's not like the later versions where you're trying to like unlock all the levels and stuff like in Super Mario World. uh, you're playing it, and you kind of sit down, and the way, like, reason why I was talking about, like, reason part of the reason why I like to take all the warp pipes is I try to race to the end to see if I can get there before I run out of lives. And that's the challenge for me. It's not that I want to explore every level in the game, but that's kind of how I do it.
And make no mistake, those warp pipes are are those warps and the pipes and stuff and everything. Those are in the game because they know that like the typical gamer or like even a seasoned gamer cannot make it through that entire game, 32 levels, without on 3 lives, starting off with 3 lives. You have to do some trick in the book to get there.
Yeah, it's like they really wanted you to see the later levels, even if you couldn't get there on your own. Because they put it, and it makes sense because a lot of times, sometimes these later levels are the games that the developers spend the most time on. However, Nintendo does a really good job of spending a lot of time on the early levels so that you understand the game.
So what are your final thoughts on Super Mario Brothers?
Well, my final thoughts were it's still holds up today. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting with Super Mario Brothers that in Japan they immediately got a sequel of Super Mario Brothers 2, and the way that developed was they figured you just beat Super Mario Brothers 1, so here's some more. So their World 1 is kind of like World 9. Uh, but so that's kind of an interesting world. And then for us in America, like when we got the sequel to Super Mario Brothers, it's almost a completely different game. In fact, it is a completely different game, but it's still very Super Mario Brothers. So this one, and then this one just holds so much. It just it's And it's like we were talking earlier when Street Fighter, right? When I go play a new Street Fighter game, all my memory of Street Fighter, like muscle, even though I played Street Fighter 4 and 3 a lot, it's all like based on Street Fighter 2. So every time I play like a Mario game or a platformer, it's all core memories from this original Super Mario Brothers from 1985, which we got in 86. But all that, like anytime I play at Super Mario Brothers, all my core, is locked into the first one. So that's where it is.
Yeah, my final thoughts on it is like I said, this game is what made me a gamer. The reason why I still love games today. The reason why I rarely skip on a Nintendo console, except for the Wii U. But it's such an amazing game. The gameplay is like perfect in my opinion. The only thing that I would like to see is that you could go back in this game, right? Which I think there's versions where you can do that. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
I can't remember if All Stars does that.
I'll have to check that out.
That lets you go back. I didn't check to see if that was a feature. I was checking something else on it because I did play like the All Stars version of it, and that holds up. And of course, that looks gorgeous. And if you have a choice to go back, that's definitely a good one to go back to if you want to as well. But for me, I just have this little device that only plays Super Mario Brothers. It's just easy to pick that up.
And that's also on the Switch online if you have it too.
Yeah, it's a lot of places.
But yeah, what I was gonna say is that my final thoughts is really that this game is like so perfectly rounded. I mean, the gameplay's great, the visuals are great, the sound is great, the levels of the variety of levels, even though they're using a lot of the same blocks over and over again, never feels old. It always feels fresh. The different scenarios they give you enemies to encounter always feel fresh. The legacy that this game made as far as projection of the gaming industry and the projection of Nintendo and Mario as a franchise. This is a game that is special to me, and I think it will remain to be special to me. I'm actually really glad we did this podcast because I haven't played it in a while, and going back to it, it really holds up very well. I was amazed at how great this game is going back to it. So I definitely think this is a game that everybody should give a shot and just to educate yourself a little bit with it.
Or say you're like us and you grew up with it and you know it. It's but just let you know it's still fun to go back and replay. So if you're like us and grew up with it or around it, yeah, might boot it. If you have access to it, like we mentioned, might boot it up and play it some more.
So, what are you going to be up to this week, Brian?
Well, this week, let's see. I still going on my walks and everything. That's going good, and just working on some stories for the website. And I've been writing some scripts for my YouTube channel, so that's been going. And I'm gonna keep doing more of that. I definitely want to play more Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time on my computer, and I plan on streaming that, so that'll be fun. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to. And I'm gonna go see the Fantastic Four movie. I think this week.
Awesome. Sounds like a good movie, man. I'm going to be still doing family stuff, still going to work and stuff. It's gonna be a busy week at work. We're releasing a lot of sites, so this can be interesting. And then, as far as home life, I'm still working with Ashton on getting through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but we are at the very end. I mean, we're right before Sephiroth. This week she was she didn't collect ethers throughout the game. I don't know if you know what that is, Brian. But anyways, it refills your magic points in battle if you use the item. And magic is a very big part of this game because of the materia, which so like a lot of creatures are like weakness to like lightning or thunder or I mean lightning or fire or wind or ice. So we had I she was really stuck in the game. She barely had any items and no ethers, and she saved and she was down like the highest one of the characters had like 6 MP, which is like the highest they had. She was completely out of that, so there was like no healing I could do except for items and things like that, which she was almost out of. So I got her out of that. I actually beat that boss, got her out of it. We got to a resting point, and there's an item vendor there, and I was able. She had like 50,000 gold or gil, and she was able to. I was able to buy her all the stuff she needed, even some materials she needed, and now she's set up and ready to go to take on Sephiroth. So but she's a little afraid to beat it because she told me, she's like, Dad, if I beat it, what's gonna happen? Am I still gonna have fun? I was like, yeah, you can always replay it. And I told her, I said, whenever you beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you can go back to any chapter you want at your current level and power too, which is pretty cool. Uh, so I'll be working with her on that.
Yeah, and wait for the next one, right?
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna play the next one, man. I think I'm gonna have to get that day one.
But the next one's going to be the last one for 7, right? It'll be to wrap the whole thing up.
I hope it's the last one. They better not do like 3.5 or something like that.
Yeah. It's amazing that there's 3 remakes to make one game.
But the way they did it is really good. I mean, like, like, let's put it this way, right? When they redid the Hobbit in 3 movies, it didn't need to be done that way, right? But the way
Yeah.
the way they've done Final Fantasy so far, it really is good and it's jam packed with everything. So, I mean, the first one took me, I want to say 40 hours to beat, maybe 44 hours. The second one took me probably like, I think it was like 75 hours ish to beat. And then the third one, I mean, I don't know. The whole world's going to be open at that point. So who knows?
Yeah, and as you pointed out, like this, you know, to remake this game, Square was really, they were really shy about remaking this game for the longest time. So now that they're remaking it, and then they just didn't remake it into one game, they're remaking it into 3 games. They're really putting a really good effort in making some really good remakes.
Yeah, I'm not to get too far off topic, but one of the things I really wish the Square would do, especially now that we have all this AI, is I wish that they would make a remake of the original Final Fantasy VII, and but just like with really nice polygons for the characters, which is the only thing that's really 3D, and the battle system. And then after that, like the backgrounds, just upscale them with AI to like 4K. And I think that that's something that deserves, and I think we'll eventually see it in the next couple of years here. But I'm definitely looking forward to the third one coming out. I don't know what it's going to be called, but I hope it's called Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Yeah, it seems like they're going with the R's. So whatever it is, it's going to be Final Fantasy 7 something starting with an R, I bet.
So where can people find you, Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, like I said, you can find me at Nostalgic Pixel on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, and nostalgicpixel.com, and streaming on Nostalgic Pixel TV on Twitch. How about yourself?
You can find me at Trywin Brian on X. We want to thank you for listening to the show. And if you liked it, please give us a 5-star review of your podcast app of choice. You can follow us on Patreon at the Legendary Backlog. It's free. It'll give you access to all our sites. And you can also listen to the podcast there going forward. And we're trying to build a community of people who love games. See you next time.
Thanks for listening.